Hi, ladies and gentlemen. This is Gina Rosenberg here, and today we are moving into Chapter 3 of The Moon is Down. Hopefully you guys are getting the hang of this whole e-learning process. You're understanding and watching these slideshows that I'm doing so that I can really walk you through the chapter, and you're actually taking time to read the chapter and pause the video in between so you can get the most out of this discussion. Okay, so this particular chapter is probably my favorite in the book. This is when we have realized now that the townspeople and the Nazis are in fact at war. So the naive predisposition that both parties had when they came to this town and occupation is really over at this point, because somebody has been killed. One of the Nazis has been killed by Alex Morden at the end of chapter 2. And now both parties understand completely that they are in fact at war. Okay, so before reading, there's a couple of focus questions I want you to pay attention to. The first one is, under what conditions is resistance, even violent resistance, acceptable? So when can we justify this? And then finally, what makes for an effective leader? And that will help be some of our great discussion that we'll have in the discussion question forum, and hopefully even some good debate after you read chapter 3. All right, before you read chapter 3, there's a couple of new characters that are being introduced. One is Alex Morden, and he's the one with the pickaxe who actually killed a Nazi at the end of chapter 2, which is the defining moment that war is in fact happening between the two parties. Then we also have Molly Morden, which is his wife, and we're going to get to know her a little bit as well in this chapter. We're about ready to read chapter 3, so you should have your book in front of you, or you should open electronically the pages that I've given you in chapter 3. I want you in a second to pause the video, read chapter 3, and complete your reading guide using the SOAR method and turn it in through Google Classroom. Now, I want to remind you of a couple things as you guys are doing this SOAR worksheet. First of all, in that first section of the SOAR worksheet, you are supposed to find 2 quotes, okay? And make sure that you put the page number where you have found each of those quotes. In that second column of the SOAR worksheet, you're going to analyze one of the quotes. So analysis of one of the quotes, okay? You don't have to analyze both quotes. Some of you did more work than you needed to. And then finally, over here is where you're going to analyze it through the worldview of the creation, fall, and redemptive method. So you're going to maybe identify what is representative of the fall, what is representative of creation, what is redemptive. Okay, so make sure you kind of identify how you're looking at your analysis in the quote through that lens. All right, so most of you did a really nice job with that. Some of you just did more work than necessary, so I want to make sure that you understand what you're supposed to do. Okay, at this time, I want you to go ahead and pause the video, and then I want you to turn in your SOAR worksheet to Google Classroom. Okay, guys, now you guys are back. So we're going to talk about 3 important conversations from chapter 3. Okay, there's 3 important conversations the first one is between Joseph and Annie, and we're going to they're going to have a conversation about what's going on in their home, setting up for the trial of Alex Morden for killing the Nazi. Then the second conversation is between Mayor Orden and Molly Morden, and we're going to find out really the expectations that she has for the mayor in this process. And then finally, Mayor Orden and Colonel Lancer are going to show the difference between a totalitarianism government and a democratic government. And we're also going to see evidence of some propaganda being used by the author in this particular conversation. Okay, I'm going to take you away from the slides for just a second, and we're going to look carefully at chapter 3. Whoops, if I can figure out how to do that. Okay, we're going to look carefully at the text in chapter 3. So let me turn my highlighter on here, and we can start looking at it. Okay, so again, this is my favorite chapter because it's really identifying the 2 parties being at war. All right, one of the quotes that I want to point out to you is right here. The people spoke to one another in monosyllables, and everyone was thinking of war, thinking of himself, and thinking of the past and how it had suddenly been changed. This is the shock of freedom taken away. And, I feel like right now we are feeling a little bit like this in our lives. We're feeling the shock of kind of this new life that we're having to live, and the shock of that freedom that we had. We're going into stores, going to school, playing our sports being taken away. And I think that that's what's happening here with the people as well. They're finally realizing that they are at war. Okay, now this next thing that I want you guys to notice is Annie. Annie is the character that I told you is really being introduced more here. And Annie has gained some little reputation as an exponent of liberty by throwing hot water on the soldiers. So she's kind of becoming the heroine here. The truth is she's been crabby anyway, but it's sort of highlighted her crabbiness, the fact that she is indeed at war. Okay, if you guys look at page 40, this is the conversation between Annie and Joseph, the husband and wife who are getting ready for the trial inside their home. And they've been instructed to move a table for this particular trial. And so they have this discussion about what do they want with the table here anyway? And what right have they gotten moving tables around? What right in coming in at all? So they're talking about this democratic notion of these soldiers not really having a right to invade their home. And then we have Annie on page 41 who shakes her finger and says, "You remember my words," she says angrily. "People are not going to like it if they hurt Alex. People like Alex. Did he ever hurt anybody before? Answer me that." And to me, this statement is really predicting an uprising. Okay, so she's saying if they're going to have the trial here for Alex and they're going to convict him of killing this Nazi and they're going to shoot him, people aren't going to like it. That's going to cause an uprising, is what she's saying. Okay, now if you continue to look at the next couple of pages, on page 42, Joseph says, people are getting together. They don't like to be conquered. Things are going to happen. Keep your eyes peeled. There's going to be things for you to do. So he's talking about how the people are actually planning behind the scenes that they are going to rise up against this totalitarianism situation, and that they are the democracy. They're getting together. They're going to enact what they want to happen and take back the town. On page 43, we see there's a question, why must we try them in my house? And Winter says, I guess it is for the show. This is not really about justice that's happening. This trial is happening. This is to show order. Okay, this is to show order and to encourage all the people to follow the orders. Okay, so they're going to try this man not because they want justice. They're going to shoot him, but they want the people to understand that this is serious business and they are not in charge, that the order is in charge. All right, so if we look at page 44, we see that the wife of Alex comes in now, and she is really kind of upset with Mayor Orden. And she basically thinks that it's him, the mayor, that has power to try her husband. But Orden says, what's this? Who says this? The people in the town, she says. And he is really upset because he's thinking that the people in the town think he still has some power. But in fact, he's saying, how could I sentence Alex? How could I do that? The mayor says that he doesn't really have power in this situation. Molly says, what do the people really want? And she says, they want to be free. Okay, so the people actually want to be free. And then Molly says, when you know what they want to do, will you tell me, Molly? She looks at him suspiciously and says, you mean no? Molly's hesitant and says, will they kill Alex? And he says, dear child, my dear child. So basically he's saying, yes, they are going to kill Alex. And of course, she's coming to that understanding that the mayor doesn't have power in this situation. Okay, so now we're going to move on and we're going to be looking more at the conversation between the between the mayor and the colonel to show the difference between democracy and totalitarianism. Okay, so on page 47, we see Mayor says to Lancer, "We do not act alone or on our own judgment." He looks straight into Lancer's eyes and says this. And then and that's really speaking to democracy. And then over here on the bottom of the page, he says, "You know as well as I that punishment is largely for the purpose of deterring potential criminal." Okay, and it must be dramatized. So here we're talking about democracy, and here we're talking about that totalitarianism. Okay, and so he's saying we have to punish so that we don't have any more criminals come forward. And so everyone knows it's not to try this stuff again. Okay, the conversation really gets good on page 48 and 49 between the colonel and the mayor. Okay, and so he says, "We must shoot people if it's necessary. If you wish to save your people from hurt, you must help us keep order." So he's begging, the colonel's begging the mayor to keep order. It is considered wise by my government that punishment emanate from local authority. It makes for a more orderly situation. So must obey or will force you to obey. And then the mayor says this principle does not work. First, I'm the mayor. I have no right to pass the sentence of death. There's no one in the community with this right. If I should do it, I would be breaking the law as much as you. So here he's talking about democracy. I can't do this. This is not the right way to do it. The people have control. And then the colonel says, "This is war. Don't you know you will have to kill all of us, or we will in time kill all of you? You destroyed the law when you came in, and the new law took its place. Don't you know that?" So in this particular case, they're totally disagreeing with how to handle. Lancer wants order, and the mayor is saying, "No, we need to turn to the people." So we are in effect at war. The military, over here on page 49, the political pattern I work in has certain tendencies and practices which are invariable. So the colonel is saying, "Hey, I'm not in control here. This is the system that I live in. This is the way things work." And Lancer, or Orden, totally disagrees with this. And then the colonel continues to talk about the fact that I am not a man subject to memories. The coal miner must be shot publicly because the theory is that others will restrain themselves from killing other men. So again, he's saying I have to act this way because that's how we keep order. Now, this is actually where we see propaganda taking place, because he's saying this is the danger of turning a man into a machine. When a man is turned into a machine, he's not subject to his memories or his morals or his conscience, but instead he's subject to doing what is in what the government tells him to do and what order is. So this is him saying that democracy is better and more moral. And then finally, "Oh no, not more than 20, I guess," says Lancer. Standing up for not shooting Morton is what is happening here. And the mayor says that he will not follow the orders. Okay, finally, on the last page, I love this part right here. It says to break a man's spirit permanently. And basically what Orden is saying is that you cannot break a man's spirit because encouraging democracy, the people will prevail. Okay, so people will not be broken. Okay, so this again is war, and it's really the difference between that totalitarianism government and the democracy. Now, I want you guys to go back to the slides for a second, and we're going to look at them just one more time. And I want to highlight again this Mayor Orden on page 48. You killed 6 men when you came in. Under our law, you are guilty of murder, all of you. Why do you go into this nonsense of law, Colonel? There is no law between you and us. This is war. Don't you know that you'll have to kill all of us, or we in time will kill all of you? You destroyed the law when you came in, and a new law took its place. Don't you know that? So this is war. Okay. So when you guys are discussing chapter 3, after you've already turned in your SOAR worksheet for chapter 3. So now you have to go into the assignment on Google Classroom, which is the discussion. So you'll see 2 questions here. You can answer one of those questions, and I want you to post your answer under the discussion question Moon is Down chapter 3 link on Google Classroom. Make sure you write 3 to 5 sentences providing your answer and your reasoning. You should also read your classmates and respond to them. So at least respond to one of your classmates' comments. This is your daily points for 2 points per day. Hopefully you have a better understanding of chapter 3. I sure miss all of you guys. Have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow.